Welcome to the part 2 of drawing from reference using guidelines. So here I have a picture. It's a pretty good picture. It's pretty clear. I have a lot of nice values, lots of shadows, lots of highlights. And there are 3 steps that I'm going to be mainly using when drawing this picture. I'm going to visualize what it's going to look like. Maybe think about the steps that I'm going to take before I actually do it. Really look at the space, all the different shapes that I see in my reference. In this case, we have a couple pairs, so some circular objects, more rectangular object, and then some organic shapes with the twig and the leaves. I can go ahead and move on to step 2, where I'll break down the pair using some basic shapes, such as circles. And of course, I have my middle line in each of them to create some even measuring when I'm actually going to finalize some of those shapes. When it comes to the bottle, again, I'm going to just place that middle line. That way I can get even sides. It'll be a lot easier to draw the neck and then the sides after that. When it comes to the pairs, I'm just using these rough lines. And you'll see that I jump around my picture a lot. Sometimes I'll work on a pair, sometimes I'll jump to the bottle a little bit. And that's because I noticed that before I can move on with one shape or one piece of the still life, sometimes I need to finalize other parts. And right there, I was measuring exactly how tall this bottle is going to be. So I took the height of the pair, compared it next to the bottle. The bottle is about 2 pairs height. Using different objects to measure other objects in your picture, super helpful, right? In this case, I'm using the pairs against the bottle, help me figure out where the top of that bottle is going to go. At this point, everything's looking pretty good. The pairs are looking good. Even though I'm using a lot of straight lines, I can always go back and use curvier lines after. So, right here, those red lines that I'm highlighting, just like the last video, I'm talking about negative space. So looking at the shapes that that negative space creates to make sure that everything's looking good. If you're not quite sure what negative space means, go ahead and check my last video. And just like my last video, I recorded without having my microphone on. So I apologize if the timing of the video and this audio is a little off. I think at this point I'm starting to think about how I'm going to be doing the twig. Now that twig is a lot more different than our other objects because it's more of a line as opposed to a shape. So in this case, I'm going to be focusing on that line right there. I just measured the distance between that curve. It meets around that area of the bottle, so that's where I'll start curving the twig. And you know what? I noticed that the line that I had was a little bit too far from the twig of that pear. So I went ahead and erased that, right? So again, I'm using multiple objects in my picture to figure out where things are going to go. And I'm happy I did because I noticed that the twig was a little bit too far. Once you have that twig in, I think the next step is just to put some basic shapes for the leaves. I can refine a lot of the shapes later. These shapes are just to figure out where they're going to go. And that leaf right there, I used the pear and the neck of the bottle. That leaf is directly above that pear, so that's a good place to put it. It's also on the same level as that bottle. The sizing might be a little bit off, but I'm going to make that adjustment a little bit later. And again, you don't have to go that detailed with all this stuff, right? The main idea for this step is just to place all your objects. If you're going in too detailed too quick, it's most likely that you're going to make a mistake. You're going to have to go back and erase everything that you did. Save yourself the headache. Measure things out. Use rough, easy shapes that are easy to erase. Everything will be a lot more forgiving if you do that. All right. We are approaching the end of the kind of planning, the sketching process, which I think is the most important process. And remember, all I'm doing is just using basic shapes. I'm using guidelines to figure out what object is going to go where. And at this point, this is just me finalizing a lot of those shapes. And like I said, I'm going to make that leaf a little bit smaller. Adding in some shadow shapes. Creating some more definite lines, like for the pear. And you'll see that I kind of twist my canvas. That's actually something that I would do in real life. I would twist my paper around because my hand curves in a certain way. That's a lot more comfortable. Kind of creates a backward C curve. So like I said, for the rest of the video, you're gonna be seeing me just finalize a lot of these shapes, put down some good definite lines. Hopefully you were drawing very lightly during that first step. Again, you don't have to be using this pear and bottle picture. Try to find your own picture. Try to draw something that you might enjoy. These still lifes can be a little boring, of course, but they are good practice. One way that I like to break it up is that I'll do maybe a boring still life, and then maybe after I'll do something a little bit more fun. Something that I enjoy. I believe we have maybe about a minute left. Enjoy the rest of the video. I think my next video is going to be about shading and form. Shading and form. Hope to see you soon.